Okay, subject of Rosh Hashanah. Moshe, that's good.
Yeah.
So, what are what's included on the subject of Rosh Hashanah to talk about? So, Chazal tell us already this thing called Malchios and Zechonos and Shaforos. These are the three topics Rosh Hashanah that have to be explained, and that's the essence of the day. Also, tshuvah is also related, obviously, and it's one of the Aseres Mei Tshuvah. The 10 days of tshuvah include also Rosh Hashanah, so that's obviously something else has to be spoken about how it relates to all these things. The first idea is the general attitude towards Rosh Hashanah. Is it a sad day? Is that same thing about sad? Some people get sad on Rosh Hashanah, and so there are many sources not to be sad. There's a pasuk and also Gemara. The pasuk is pasuk in Nehemiah Perek Ches. Over there it talks about that people were aroused to the mistakes that they were doing, and they were reading the Torah, and everybody heard the Torah, and they started crying. Mass tshuvah movement. But over there it says that the Levium, who were like the ushers, whatever they were in charge over there, so it says that they were telling everybody to quiet down, and the pasuk says, Nehemiah is talking. That he told them, go eat fatty foods, mashmanim, shamein, fatty foods, and drink sweet drinks, and send portions to those who did not prepare. It means if anybody doesn't have food for the Chag, people should send to them. He uses the word shulchan manos, which is something similar to what we call mishloach manos by Purim. But it doesn't mean that kind of manos, but it means people, if someone doesn't have food for Yom Tov, so send to them, because the day is holy to our Master, to Hashem, and do not be sad, because the happiness of Hashem, in Hashem, is your strength. So he is saying that, and it says over there was Rosh Hashanah. It says openly over there that was Rosh Hashanah, and he said, Al Tiyat Seifu, don't be sad, even though the sadness was because they were doing Averis. They realized that Averis was a kind of a good sadness. You could say it was a proper sadness, because they were doing tshuvah.
What pasuk is that?
That's in. I'll open it up. It's worthwhile to get the exact. It's in Nehemiah Perek 8. Over there it starts in the beginning of the parak, right before the end of the parak, it says that there came the 7th month, and it says that everybody gathered. 7th month is Tishrei. It says everybody gathered by Shar HaMayim, which means one of the gates over there of the Beis HaMikdash, and they told Ezra to bring the Sefer Torah, and Ezra brought it, and he read it.
This is in 7.
This is 8, parak 8. Aleph Beis Gimel. I'm going through the psukim in parak 8. And it says Ezra was reading the Torah until half the day, from the morning till half the day, and everybody was listening, the men, the women. And Ezra stood on a big platform, and it says those who were standing on his right and on his left. And then it says Ezra opened up the Sefer, and everybody was quiet. Ezra blessed Hashem, his great name. Everyone said Amen, Amen. And then the pasuk continues that Nehemiah, who's and Ezra, and the Levium, who were explaining to the people in Torah, so it says right before that they for some seichel, they read it, they understood it, and then it says that Nehemiah and Ezra and the Levium, they said, today is holy to Hashem your God. Do not mourn, do not cry, because everybody was crying when they heard the Divrei Torah. And he said to them, Bechor means Nehemiah, maybe also the others also. This pasuk that we said, this is pasuk 10. So parak 8, pasuk 10. He said, go and eat rich foods and drink sweet drinks and send portions to those that were not prepared, because today is holy to our Master, and do not be sad, because the happiness of Hashem is your strength. Then the pasuk continues, the Levium were quieting everybody down, saying, Hasu. We said the word Has means to be quiet, because today is holy to our Master, is holy, and do not be sad. Everyone went home and they ate and they drank and they sent more portions, and they made a simcha gedolah, because they understood the words that they were told. Later on, it says that after the Chag, it says in the Sukkot, and it says later after the Chag, they made a big tshuvah movement, and over there they were crying with the ashes on their heads. So there was a tshuvah movement later, but on Rosh Hashanah they said not to do it. So Rosh Hashanah is not supposed to be a sad day, not even a sad day of tshuvah, and even a positive kind of a sadness. I'm not saying we're sad about a bad sadness. Later on, it says later on they did come to do the tshuvah with crying and everything, fasting and crying. But on Rosh Hashanah, it says that it's a happy day. Also, a side point, that's the mamish a side point, but the Gemara does say in Maseches Beitza that Ravina and Ravashi, Ravina, one of them says that he saw his, Ravina saw Ravashi was, I think, who said who? Maybe Ravashi saw that Ravina was sad, and he said, why are you sad? It was Rosh Hashanah. So he said, because I forgot to make Erev Tavshila. I forgot, that's a little bit of a cute thing that he said, because I forgot that it was 2 days, Yantif, Thursday, Friday, and he didn't have food for Shabbos because he forgot to make Erev Tavshila. And the Gemara continues what to do in such a case. But that means when you see somebody in Rosh Hashanah that's sad, you're supposed to ask him, why are you sad? And if he answers because it's Rosh Hashanah, you say it's not a good answer. If you don't have food to eat, okay, I understand, take an Erev Tavshila, we'll get your food.
But Shabbos was going to be the next.
Right, the Thursday, Friday, and then Shabbos was going to, right. There was Rosh Hashanah was Thursday, Friday. I'm not bringing this as a source, but it's like a cute thing to see that someone said, why are you sad? And he said, because I have no food for Shabbos. Okay, that's a reason to be sad. But Rosh Hashanah itself was not a time to be sad. So some people, I think they need this first direction that Rosh Hashanah is not a sad day. What is Malchios, Zechronos, and Shofaros? The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, that 16a, that it has a whole list over there of things and what the result of those things that we do are. It talks about bringing the Omer on Pesach and bringing the Shtei Lechem on Shavuos and bringing Nisach HaMayim, the libation of water on Sukkot. And each thing it says what the result is going to be over there, what the good result that Hashem sends because of that. And Rosh Hashanah says, say before me Malchuyos, Zechronos, and Shofaros, say before me these psukim, as we have in the Machzor and Rosh Hashanah, we have in the Musaf, over there it has 10 psukim of Malchuyos, 10 psukim of Zechronos, 10 psukim of Shofaros. Over there it says, what's Malchuyos? Kedei shetamlichuni aleichem, in order that you should make me king over you. And Zechronos is in order that your memory, I'm not sure if that's a good word, should come before me for good. And how do you do that? With the shofar. So those are the three things of Malchuyos, Zechronos, and Shofaros. And that's supposed to be the essence of the day.
Wait, I don't understand. You're saying that your memory should be for the.
Our memory should be. I said, Kedei sheyalu zechronechem lefanei latova. What's the problem with that?
Two different sections. There's three different sections.
I just said Malchuyos and Zechronos. I said, I'm not sure what you heard. I said Malchuyos says Kedei shetamlichuni aleichem, and Zechronos says Kedei sheyalu zechronechem lefanei latova. And shofar, bameh b'shofar. Those are the three things.
I didn't realize. No, I didn't. I thought the shofar was a lot more than.
It says bameh.
Enhance the first two.
It says that's the opening. It says bameh b'shofar. That's the Gemara. Bameh b'shofar. The shofar is the tool.
But then it's certain in a certain way. It's one reason, two reasons, and the reason is through shofar. I mean,
That's what it says. Bameh b'shofar. You accomplish either both of those things or one of those things. We'll see what bameh b'shofar means. But it says, how do you do that? How do you do something of the above with the shofar? The shofar is the emtsai, is this tool, is the medium of how you're going to accomplish the above thing. Just to point out that people make a mistake and they say that the Malchios is that we should make Hashem king. It doesn't say that. It says it's in order to make Hashem king. Again, let's say it says by, I think it's a basic misconception.
I thought we declared Hashem king.
These words don't mean that. These words say, in order that I should be your king. Kedei. Let's say the other one. It says, pour libations of water before me in order that you should have blessed rains. Right? That everybody knows. Or bring the Omer that you should have, your tshuvah should be blessed. On the same vein that it says, do this in order you should get this benefit. Right? So here it says, do say Malchuyos in order that you should make me king. It doesn't say, I think it's a very basic reading. In order you should make me the king, means that making me the king is the result. That's not the avoda. Maybe that's the way to do it also. It doesn't say. But the point is that the benefit you're going to have is that you're going to make me king. I think it's very important to get this point across. Maybe I should read it from the Gemara. It's in Rosh Hashanah of 16. I'm trying to get
benefit that we're going to have is that Hashem is going to be our king.
Yes, that's the benefit. That's the saying. It's not saying declare Hashem king. It says do something which will make Hashem to be your king, and the purpose of it is going to be for your benefit to make Hashem your king. If I can read the Gemara, maybe it'll be clearer.
Which Gemara is it?
This is Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, and you said what daf, but could you say it again?
16. I think from the context of the Gemara before or after, I think it's clear that that's what the Gemara is saying. 16a.
All of these are like say, you say it, whatever it is.
This one happens to be
Say zichronos, in other words.
Right.
Say zichronik, or
I'm trying to get him to be able to read it straight. It was taught in the Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda related in the name of Rabbi Akiva. Why did the Torah state bring the Omer on Pesach? Because Pesach is the time for the judgment on produce. So the Holy One, blessed be He, said, bring before me the Omer on Pesach, so that, and that's when I stress the word so that the produce in the fields be blessed for you. That's good. Bring the Omer in order so that the produce will be blessed for you. That's number one. Next one. And why did the Torah state bring the 2 loaves on Shavuos? Because Shavuos is the time for judgment on the fruits of the tree. The Holy One, blessed be He, said, bring before me the 2 loaves on Shavuos, so that the fruits of the tree be blessed for you. So that the fruits of the tree be blessed. Again, what do? You do the avoda of Shtei Alechem. You do the Omer of Pesach, avoda of Omer, in order that the produce should be blessed. You do the avoda of bringing the Shtei Alechem in order that the fruits of the tree should be blessed. And why did the Torah state make water libations during the festival of Sukkot? Because Sukkot is a time for the judgment on water. The Holy One, blessed be He, said, libate water before me on the festivals, so that the annual rains be blessed for you. Again, the same thing, that you do the avodah of Nisach HaMayim, and the result is going to be the benefit that you're going to have blessed rains.
Okay. And now we're talking about speaking of these 3.
And furthermore, God said, recite before me on Rosh Hashanah verses of kingship, remembrance, and shofar, verses of kingship in order to accept my sovereignty upon yourselves. This in order means so that. I don't know if they translated it well, but it means that that's the result is going to be. It's not saying that that's the avoda that you should declare. The avoda is to say the psukim of Malchios, and what's going to be the result, the benefit, that Hashem will be king. The same way you understand that the produce will be good produce, the fruits will be good fruits, the rain will be good rain. You know what you're going to have? You're going to have that I'm going to be king. Isn't that that's what it says? It means making Hashem king is the success that we'll have. The success that Hashem is king, it looks a little different and people take it sometimes. They say that avoda is to relate that Hashem is king. It doesn't say that. It says that say the psukim of Malchios in order that Hashem will become your king. And that's the success.
Okay.
And continuing, say verses of remembrance so that your remembrance should rise before me favorably. That's the result. If you say the psukim of the zichronos, so our remembrance will become before Hashem favorably. And then it says with what? With the shofar. B'meh shofar.
So then that has nothing to do with saying shofars.
Right. The pasuk did say in the beginning. It said, "Say the beginning." Imul lefanai did say malchus zechonos and shofaros. Here it says b'meh b'shofar. It either means the blowing of the shofar, but it also includes saying the psukim of shofar also. It means both of them. It's going to mean that the shofar is what that's what. But here it also says that saying the psukim of shofaros also accomplishes that. I have a little just noticing the article. I just read it now. And all the other ones they say so that, and by the psukim of Malchios they changed the word in order to accept my sovereignty upon. I think they made a mistake. They're going out of the way to change the word because they didn't say what I said. It doesn't. They're translating it as if it says that that's the way to declare my kingship. It doesn't say that. It says so that. The same, not in order, so that.
Everything else they say that.
They changed it in order to accept my sovereignty upon yourselves. The mamish changed the words. That's the wrong shot. Art scholars are wrong shot. The wrong translation. They're saying that that's the way in order to accept my sovereignty upon yourselves.
They're saying, how do you declare Hashem king? By
saying right, but it doesn't say that. It
says
doesn't say
if you
that.
say
It's-
these psukim, he will be.
Right. So that I should be king over you. I think they went out of the way to say the wrong shot. People usually explain it like that, but I think it doesn't say that. I heard this from Rabbi Shlomo Zolberman, and it's like the Pashup Shah. That's what the words say. And also the Ramchal is going to say that. He doesn't say it on these words, but it's clear that the Ramchal says many times that Hashem's being king over us that's the success. If we're looking for success on Pesach, that we should have produce, and on Shavuos we should have the fruits, and on Sukkot we should have rain. The success of Rosh Hashanah is that Hashem should be king. That's our success. How do you get Hashem to be king? By saying the Psukim of Malchiyos. How do you get Hashem to remember us for good? By saying the Psukim of Zichronos. And all this is through the shofar. But I think that's a very basic
So I'm a little
translation.
confused about what does it mean that it's all through the shofar? We just said that we're going to recite psukim and Hashem will be king. So what does that have to do with blowing the shofar?
Right. So it could, first of all, and also that's another thing is that when it says Bameh Shofar, what Chaim David was talking about is Bameh Shofar going on both of the above or only on the Zichronos, which was just mentioned. Means it said do Malchios and do Zichronos and Bameh Shofar. So it's not clear on the words if Bameh Shofar is going back on all of the above or only on the last one that was just mentioned, which means is the shofar accomplishing Zichronos only, or is it accomplishing also Malchios?
Okay, but that begs the question because then even if it's Zichronos, I thought we say the psukim
Right.
and then that's what will accomplish
The
remembering Hashem for
Zichronos,
good.
right,
And so
right.
then what's the shofar have
Right.
to do with that?
So I think that it means both. I think that it means both. It means the shofar is doing the sukkim do it. The Ramchal explains it like that, but I hear the difficulty. I'm not denying the difficulty.
But I mean, the Gemara says it like that.
Right, right. But the Gemara is saying about the psukim, and also the shofar obviously is going to mean that the shofar is accomplishing that.
Okay.
Interesting enough, isn't forgive me for jumping there, isn't shofar only the rice requirement of the day? And not so Malchios and Zichronos?
Yes,
So
true.
that's what I'm thinking, is that
So that'll answer the question.
The Ika mitzvah of the day is Yom Teruah, Yom of Shofar blow.
Right. And the question, what does the shofar accomplish? It could be that it
Right, so
accomplishes
it
Zichronos.
answers the first one.
That
or
Either
two,
one or
and then
two.
we
And the psukim will be
see-
Rabbanan.
And for sure
Okay.
itself.
As the
For
Chaim
sure
David,
it's-
what does itself mean? No.
Well, the mitzvah itself.
Yes,
the
yes, but what
shofar.
does it accomplish? What does the shofar accomplish? Here it says that it accomplishes Zichronos, maybe also Malchuyos. But, and Chaim David is pointing out that the psukim is Drabanan, which is true. The psukim is Drabanan. And these
Like a
psukim,
shofar.
all these psukim are Drabanan. So when it says, say the psukim in order to do this, and these psukim in order to do that, remember shofar, the actual shofar blowing is going to accomplish those things. And the psukim on Drabanan level is also accomplishing that also.
So the only device on Rosh Hashanah
Is the shofar, right?
That's all.
And it's very interesting, just a side point, I'm not going in order, but this point, but the Torah, I should have introduced that the Torah doesn't say what Rosh Hashanah is. All it says about Rosh Hashanah is that it's a Yom Tshuvah or Zichron Tshuvah. And that means blowing. How are you supposed to know what
Well,
Rosh
they
Hashanah is
see
all
the
about?
Zichron and Shua going together.
That's going to be on
That's interesting.
that, okay, but that's going to be
That's
Zichron Tshuvah. But the question is, how are you supposed to know that it's a day of judgment? All that. It doesn't say in the Torah, you have to have Torah Shabbat Peh. It's interesting. You do have the pasuk in the we just read in Nehemiah that it says it's a holy day, it's supposed to be happy. But details of being Malchios and Zichronos that. Okay, so now we have the Gemara, and now the question is, what is Malchios and what is Zichronos? And shofar is going to be the medium how you're going to accomplish something. There's difficulty with these two things and how to put them together. Means that besides understanding each one, what Malchios is and what Zichronos is, you also have to get the connecting factor. It can't be that it's two subjects that don't have anything to do with each other. Also, sometimes people, if they see them as being two distinct issues that don't have anything to do with each other, or they even contradict each other a little, maybe. Sometimes people have that idea also. So then they're going to stress one, and the other one is going to be under the rug, something's wrong. Something is not balanced. Means what is Malchios about? What is Zichronos about? Some people, I'm just saying from what I've seen in the past, some people, Malchios means that today of declaring that Hashem is king, and the whole avodah is to be that say that Hashem is king. And Zichronos means that it's a Yom Adin, it's a day of judgment. How do these two things go together? And am I stressing the point that Hashem is king and I don't care about the judgment? Or am I stressing the point that Hashem, that it's the day of judgment and the subject right now is not that Hashem is king? How do you put all these things together? Maybe you've heard ideas. I'm trying to.
It's like, it's just-
What is Malchios and what is Zichronos and how do they go together? What is the connection between both of them? What's the essence of the day? It's
I
not
don't know
that, but
why
what's
you
the
want to put it
essence?
together? I think it's a three-pronged day.
But it can't be that, I don't think the shofar surely is going to be
Shofar is the
Mamre
initial.
Shofar.
Yeah.
So it's going to be maybe a 1 or a 2 prong day, right? It's not going to be a 3. The shofar is definitely the medium for one of these two,
Right.
or maybe both. But Malchus and Zichronos, to say that it's two issues that don't have what to do with each other is very difficult. To say that the issue of Malchus and Zichronos is two distinct subjects that don't connect, don't overlap, or they even maybe are independent of each other, I would think that it's impossible to say that they're independent.
Is that the tchuna ikari of a Baruch Hu, that these are king, the essential tchuna of a Baruch Hu is kingship. But that's what we're starting with today. And when we're talking about zichronos, remembering our relationship to Hashem through our presence, our being, our nation, how we are remembered by Hashem. I remembered you as Chesed Yidnu. You went with me in the midbar. You went after me in the midbar. You didn't have anything to eat. And all that's those zichronos are how Hashem sees us, or how He relates to us in our relationship through what we do. That's the zichronos.
And what is
And
Malchus?
Malchus is Kula Hashem.
But Malchus
We
has to
not-
mean how Hashem is king over us.
Over everything, over the entire Bria.
Okay, I'll say what I think, and we'll see. We'll try to if that is the same or different than what I'm going to try to present. So, I think that the essence of the day is found in what Chazal talk about. Chazal call it Yom HaZikaron. When you talk about Yom HaZikaron, is that how do Chazal define the day? Do they call it the day of kingship of Hashem, or other names? Yom HaChtara, the day of the coronation. They call it Yom HaZikaron. The Zohar calls it Yom Hadin. Means that the term Yom Hadin is not found in the Gemara. It's found in the Zohar. The Zohar calls it Yom Hadin, which could be very much. It could be the same as Yom HaZikaron, but doesn't talk about the kingship of Hashem. That's not the essence of the day. It's not called the coronation.
Is different than Yom Hadin.
What does the Yom HaZikaron mean?
Okay.
I think that it's the same. How do you understand? The translation. What does Yom HaZikaron mean? Does it mean, okay, that's the question. What does Yom HaZikaron mean? Does it mean that they're remembering the past? I don't think so. Like they made, not modern days, they made Yom HaZikaron, a different Yom HaZikaron, right? To remember. It's remembering the people that gave their lives in the wars. They're remembering. I don't think that's the day of Yom HaZikaron of Rosh Hashanah. Is not that. It's not that nuance of Yom HaZikaron. The Yom HaZikaron is how Hashem is judging. That is the verdict. It's called like Zachreinu L'Tova. It doesn't mean that Hashem should remember good things about us. Zachreinu L'Tova means that Hashem should judge us. Like I would say the same word as Pekidah. You say Vayifkod, Hashem Pakad Esara. Does it mean that Hashem remember? The word Pekidah and Zechira is very similar. And there's a word to be Zocher that sometimes it means remembering. I'm not denying that sometimes it means remembering, but I think that very often it means that when Hashem is going to pass the verdict, that's called to be Zachreinu L'Tova. What does it mean that our remembrance should come? It doesn't mean the remembrance of past things. It means that Hashem is judging. It's a day of judgment. That's what we usually call Yom Hadin, the day of justice. That's the Zohar. The Zohar says Yom Hadin. I think that the day of judgment, the day of remember, doesn't mean remember the past. I have to get another word. If remember only means the past, then I wouldn't use that word. It's the day of verdict. The Yom HaZikaron, how Hashem is passing judgment. It is, I don't know how to say the word verdict, to make a verdict. How do you say that in English? To pass a verdict, is there one word? Okay, judge back to the judgment again. Okay, so I wanted to use the word of Zikaron on something, but
Zohar says Yom Hadin.
Yom Hadin. In the Tefillah it says Yom HaZikaron, and the Zohar it says Yom Hadin. So that means that Hashem is passing judgment. It's a day of verdict. For what? That's the question. What is the Zikaron all about? And how does it fit with the Malchuyos? So I just see from there that the essence of the day is going to be called the Yom HaZikaron. That's the essence of the day, and everything else is going to have to be around that. It's going to somehow be complementing what Yom HaZikaron is. So if we could start from the beginning, what is Malchuyos and what is Zichronos, then we'll get to Shofaros. If we finish it all today or not, if not, then we'll continue next time. But what is Malchuyos? In the Rosh Hashanah, Daf 32, Over there it talks about how do you know the issue of Malchuyas. Means in the pasuk, as mentioned before, by Rosh Hashanah, it just says Yom Tshuvah. It says Zichron Tshuvah. It doesn't say a word about Malchuyas. So how do you know that you say Malchuyas also? So the Gemara brings a drush over there. It says in this is in Parshas Baloscha, where it talks about the trumpets. Hashem told Moshe to make 2 trumpets. And over there it says you should use these trumpets. That's going to cause you a zikaron before Hashem. Ani Hashem Elokechem. And the Gemara says that is extra. Why does it say Ani Hashem Elokechem? To tell you, whenever zikaron and Ani Hashem Elokechem is Malchuyas, the Gemara understands as a given. When it says I am Hashem your God, that's another way of saying that Hashem is king. And Malchuyos and Zichronos go together. Whenever it says here, it says so that's it gets a theme. It goes together. Whenever we talk about Zichronos, Malchuyos goes together. To explain from the Ramchal's words, he says on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem is standing as it were as a king over his world, and therefore it's a proper time to pray that he should reveal his kingship completely in the world. And also later on, he says that on this day Hashem stands with B'chinas Melech HaOlam, and we have to be Maschazik Kizeh Kol Tuveinu V'Kol Tokpeinu. He mentioned before that Malchuyos is a great thing. That if Hashem is king, that's the benefit. Like I said before, today, so that Hashem should become king over us. So the Ramchal uses these words that Hashem being king over us, that's our strength, that's our good, that's our good lot. If Hashem is king over us.
Why is it good?
Why is it good? So far, I just said the words. I didn't say why. I just said.
You're saying it's a day that Hashem stands over us to give a verdict.
Right. They didn't say that. He said that Rosh Hashanah, it's Hashem is acting as a king. How is he acting as a king? Because he's giving a verdict. Because he's passing judgment. Hashem is coming to act as a king over his world. So the connection is right there about Malchuyos and Zichronos, because Hashem is passing judgment. Who is Hashem? Hashem is acting as king, and he's passing judgment for what's going to be in the coming year. What does kingship mean? Kingship always means leadership of the people. Sometimes people get, when you see modern day leadership, sometimes you get the impression that they're interested only in their own position. That's not what a real leader is. A real leader is that he's taking the leadership of the people in order to take care of them. That's what a king is. And Hashem's kingship is leading the people towards their benefit, their biggest benefit. So when you hear a mortal king speaking, what is he going to say in his campaign, so to speak? What is he leading the people to? So he's going to say that he's going to give them prosperity and protection, no crime, whatever, against other nations, whatever it might be. What is Hashem's kingship leading us to? Hashem is organizing the people, leading the people. What is the issue of Hashem? What does he want to lead us to? So if we go back in the Ramchal, we spoke about it many times, that Hashem's purpose in creating the world was in order to bring it to the greatest good, which is the cleaving to him. That's the best good that Hashem could have made. And when Hashem is leading the world, he's leading it towards that direction. That's the kingship of Hashem. That's Hashem's issue in his kingship, in his leadership. There's a chiddush that Hashem is considered king. The Ramchal talks about it when he talks about Kriya Shema. So the Hashem is considered Yudke Vovke, and you have Elokim, you have Adon, Admi, Adon. There's also a thing called Melech. This is in the Derech Hashem in Chelek 4, chapter 4, paragraph 2. Over there he says that Hashem, in his goodness and his kindness, he lowered himself, so to speak, in his humility. He lowered his ultimate honor to have a connection to his creations, and he relates to them as a king would to a people. That means that it's considered a lowliness of a humility of Hashem to be considered our leader. We said in Marshall when we learned in Derech Hashem that if someone would have created ants, 1,000 ants, and he's the one who created them and he has complete control over them, but that he should be called the captain of the ants, he would say, like, I don't need that honor. Like, that's beneath my honor. And it's beneath the honor of Hashem also to be called our king. But Hashem, in his ultimate humility, he wanted to be considered our leader. and that's considered like he's our head, means there's the head and the body. Hashem is our head. Like, what's the connection between people and God? There's no connection. But Hashem, he wanted to make a connection, and that the malchus of Hashem is for our benefit, that Hashem is our leader. And what's he leading us to? To this ultimate good of being connected to him. So when we say Hashem Malchuyos, in order that Hashem should be our leader, that means that that's our benefit. Our benefit is that Hashem should take the lead. You might ask that Hashem is already leader, is already the king. So no, Hashem is not the king now, even though Hashem of course could, but Hashem made it that it depends on our actions. And like it says in the pasuk, we say every day, on that day, Hashem should become king. So at this point, Hashem is not king. Hashem is waiting that we should take him as king. But Hashem's kingship, Hashem being king over us, will be our biggest success. If we go on to Zichronos now. So we said so far that Malchus means that Hashem is our leader and he's taking care of us. And the more that he takes care of us, the better off that we are. The more he's in position. And we're the ones who make him in position. The Kadesh Tamlichuni Aleichem means that that's our success. That's the benefit we have. Hashem is going to be our king. What is the Chronos? So there's a proof in the Gemara. I don't want to go into the details, but it says that the Zichronos is not just remembering the past. The Zichronos is the future. That means, as we said, I don't have a good English word. I'd like to get a word in the Zichronos, that it means the verdict, that Hashem is judging the world for what's going to be. The main point of Zichronos is not to remember the past. The point is what's going to be in the future. It's true that one of the factors of the future is what was in the past, but that's one of the factors. There are other factors also. The point is that Hashem is judging the world what's going to be in the coming year. In other words, Hashem could have decided in the beginning of the creation what's going to be for the 6,000 years. Hashem could have decided every 1,000 years. Hashem could decide every month, every day, every minute. But Hashem made that there's a cycle of a year. As we see in the sun, there's a solar, and we see that a year is a cycle. That's something inherent in the creation. And he's revealing to us that Hashem decides the judgment of the year from the beginning of the year. The Rosh Hashanah ad Achri Shana, that Hashem, this the Gemara says, that Hashem decides in the beginning of the year what's going to be in the end. That means that Hashem is setting up the judgment, setting up the verdict of the coming year. That's what's happening in Rosh Hashanah. There's a very big connection between Malchus and Zichronos. Malchus means Hashem's position as king, and Zichronos is what he's going to do in that with that kingship. The mashal would be, I would like to just change the mashal, how people look at it. Some people I see in books also, even children's books, that they look at Rosh Hashanah as coming to the courthouse. Have you seen that? The courthouse. And that's the scale and the courthouse. They're coming to the courthouse. Like, Mishpat Shalom, people coming to the courthouse. Standing trial, standing judgment. So that is a big kasha people have. What does it have to do with celebration? Why are we celebrating? What Rosh Hashanah is about. I think it'll be more, I don't know what the place is, but when the government comes in, you can say the Knesset, when the government comes into office, let's say there's elections, there should be good elections coming up. So when a new party comes into office and their decision of how they're going to be leading the people, that's Rosh Hashanah. The decision, the new party, that's now it's not a new party, it's Hashem, but how many votes does Hashem have? In other words, how strong is the party? You have the party, that means what their agenda is. The agenda is the Zikaron part. What Hashem is planning, what Hashem wants to do in the coming year. The Malchus means how strong is his elections are more elections. Okay, the elections is going to be how strong the party is going to be, and the Zichronos is what's the agenda of that party. What is going to be the agenda of the new government? One is giving the government strength, and one is what the agenda of the government is going to be. Those are the 2 points of Malchus and Zichronos. You can have a party that has a good agenda, but they have how many seats over there? They have 60 seats. They can't do anything. They have to have the robe, and then if you have 61, 60, everything could break it. And have a strong government. that they have a lot of backing, and then they don't have to. That they have a lot. They can go ahead with their plans. You also have a government that can be strong, but what's their agenda? What is the agenda? The 2 points of Malchus and Zechronos is the strength of the government and the agenda of the government. Those are the two things that we're talking about. Kadesh Tamlichuni Aleichem, that you should make me king. That's giving power to the government of Hashem. And the Zechronos is that the agenda should be a favorable agenda. Those are the 2 points of Malchus and Zechronos. I have a list of psukim that talk about that Hashem's judgment is always a reason for happiness. Means, again, Hashem's agenda is always good. And when Hashem makes judgment, passes judgment, is always something to be happy about. It's interesting that we know the psukim so well because Friday night, when you say L'chun Ranana, Kabbalah Shabbos, the psukim are one again after the other. There's over there, we have 96 and 97 and 98 in Tehillim. And I read the psukim with now. Yismuchu Hashemayim v'sagel. Everyone knows this psukim from L'chun Ranana. Yismuchu Hashemayim v'sagel. Oretz Yirama Yomu Mulolo. Ya'alo Salai B'chol HaShabo. Oz Yirananu Kolat Seyor. The heavens should rejoice. The earth should rejoice. The sea rejoices. The field and all of the trees. Why? Because Hashem is coming to judge. Everything's happy. The whole universe is happy because Hashem is coming to judge. Parak 97. Hashem Allah Tagel Oretz Ismuchu Yim Rabim Shama Vatismach Tzion Tagel L'man Mishpatecha Hashem. That everyone is rejoicing. Tzion and Benos Yehuda, the suburbs of Yehuda, they're all rejoicing because of your judgment. 98. Everyone should shout out to Hashem. Pitzvah, Rananu, Zameru, Zamal Hashem, Bechinor, sing to Hashem with a harp. Bechinor v'kol zimra, b'chsosos v'kol shofar b'ilifnei melech Hashem. Yiram hayomu molavot, tevel v'yoshveva. The sea should thunder, the sea on its full, and the world and all of its inhabitants. And then rivers should be clapping their hands, and the mountains should sing before Hashem. Why? So all these psukim, one after another, they talk about Hashem's judgment. There's a reason that everyone should rejoice. So it goes back to Hashem's day of judgment. When Hashem is getting the agenda, so it's a reason to rejoice. What does Hashem lead the world to? Hashem's agenda is to bring the world to its perfection. Now, of course, we don't want to be part of the part that has to be eradicated. There's evil that has to be eradicated in order to bring the world to its for purpose. Hashem's purpose in the world is to bring ultimate good, closeness to Hashem. Whoever is Zocha should be able to get it. That's the purpose of Hashem. And if Hashem is going to eradicate the evil in order to bring that closer, that's good. We're happy about Hashem's judgment. Of course, we don't want to be part of that evil that's going to be eradicated. So there's a lot to do tshuvah for. But the issue of Hashem's judgment is a reason for happiness. A side point, that how come it's necessary to have mishpat? Why is it necessary to have that? It should be deserving. So this goes back to the beginning of Derech Hashem. Hashem could have made the world with the purpose of giving the closeness to Hashem without that we do anything. Hashem could have just slapped it onto us. But over there it says that Hashem wants it to be the ultimate good, which means that it's us. That's it. It's inherently us. It's not just given as a nama de kisu for the bread of shame. So that's the idea that Hashem wants this deserving. So the idea of deserving is a good thing. The word mishpat doesn't mean punishment. The word mishpat means deserving. What's deserving? So that idea is a positive and happy and favorable thing. Ramchal says that on this day, that so far the way we explain Rosh Hashanah, it's the day where Hashem is getting the power to govern the world for the coming year. And the agenda, we're trying to get that the agenda should be as good as possible. Ramchal says that since this is the day that Hashem is king, he's standing as king over his world, and the fact about judging. So it's an opportunity for us to daven and do an avoda that's going to bring about the complete government of Hashem. That means in essence, we're talking about 1 year. In the beginning, inherently, we're talking about 1 year, the judgment of the year. But Ramchal says that since Hashem is judging and he's standing as king over the world, judging the year coming ahead, so it's an opportunity for us to daven not only that Hashem's power of his malchus should be revealed this year, It's already davening that it should come to its complete fruition, which is what the whole world is supposed to come to. We daven for Moshe Mashiach, for the Gula Shlema, that everything should come to its completion. So that's not, I could say maybe that's not what Hashem called Rosh Hashanah. Hashem called Rosh Hashanah the day of judgment for the coming year. But we take the opportunity on our own that we want Hashem's kingship not just to be for this year on a high scale, but it should come to its complete fruition. That's a lot of the davening. Most of the davening of Rosh Hashanah and the regular tefillah, the whole davening is talking about that it should come to its complete fruition. So that might be a tosefet, but it's not the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, but what it started off to be. But we take the opportunity to daven for the complete revelation of Hashem's kingship. One more thing before we go to shofar is that in every prayer besides Musaf is where we have Malchus and Shofaros. The rest of the davening we don't have it. And it seems we only have Malchuyos. We only speak about Lochal Kolo and Kula B'Chodecha. The regular davening of Shachris, Mincha, Mariv is mostly about Melech Al Kol Haaretz, Mekadesh Yisrael Yom HaZikaron. And in the signing off, you do say Melech Al Kol Haaretz and Yom HaZikaron. You do mention those things. But the Rebbe Eliezer Zilberman, the Rashiva, he mentioned that the Yalav Yavo is also, there are two tefillos over there. There's Melech Al Kol Haaretz and Kula B'Chodecha. And the Yalav Yavo. Yalav Yavo, we think of, the Yalav Yavo, you just stick it in like you do by all the. He says that the real Yalav Yavo started with Rosh Hashanah. That it's really a tefillah about Zichronenu, Fiktanenu, Zichron Avosenu, Zichron Mashiach. It's really a davening of Zichronos. So it's true. Shofar is only by Musaf when we actually blow the shofar. But all the other davenings of Rosh Hashanah, Shachris, Mincha, Mariv are also all about Malchus and Zichronos. Just the Bameh Shofar we don't do only on Musaf because that's when we actually blow the shofar. So I think it's a beautiful point. And then later on, it also might have been, he's saying that as a possibility, but I think it makes a lot of sense that the initial tefillah that Chazal authored of Yalav Yavo was really for Rosh Hashanah. But we also extended also to the other Chagim because the Gemara says that on Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot is also judgment, and also Rosh Chodesh is called Yom HaZikaron. That's what Malchus and Zichronos. So we'll have to talk about Shofaros. So,
Bob,
yes, please.
just so I understand, if the Ribono Shel Olam is going to judge us, if there's a day of judgment, so to speak, regardless of whether we do anything about it, what is our connection with that day of judgment? In other words, the Ribono Shel Olam, if he's going to once a year judge us, what is our mindset if he's doing it, if it would happen with or without us, so to speak?
So here it's being told that we have a way how to make that good, that Hashem's verdict can be favorable based on our avoda, based on what we do on Rosh Hashanah. We can change the verdict for good. That's what we're being told here, where it says, say the psukim of Zichronos, Kadesh Yalla Zichronechem Latova, say the psukim in order, so that your remembrance will come before me for good. That means that the judgment is going to be made good because of our saying Zichronos, and especially Bameh B'Shofar. That's the main ingredient here. Like you're pointing out that you need if it's happening anyway, so we have nothing to do with it. The point is that Hashem wants us to do an avoda on Rosh Hashanah, which is going to make our Zichronos for good, and that's going to be the shofar. It says in the Gemara, like Chaim David pointed out, that it's been Rabbanan to say the psukim of Zichronos, but the shofar is the Daraisa, and the shofar accomplishes, that's going to be the next subject, that the shofar accomplishes that we should be remembered for good. So that
I thought you were saying earlier that you're making the pasuk. You're saying that you're making a king to yourself. That you're making you're bringing Hashem.
That's the Malchios. That's the Malchios aspect, and the Zichronos aspect is making the verdict good.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two aspects of Hashem's power as being king and his agenda of being king. What's he going to do as he's king? So Malchios is empowering him, and Zichronos is making that the agenda should be good.
And I'm sorry. And what is the component that makes the agenda good? What is the action we're doing that makes the?
Now it says shofar. Shofar is going to accomplish that, and that
So
how does the shofar do that?
and
And that's
it's just just an interesting point you made is that this year, that the judgment is for a year, but it's a little baffling because we seem to understand that the Baruch Shalom is always has a master plan for us, and a universal, eternal master plan. It's hard to understand that his judgment is limited to this year. That in totality we're looking at eternity, and how does the plan of this year fit into the Ribono Shalom's long-term plan.
So surely that's true that Hashem has the master plan, and that's where everything is heading to. But Hashem adjusts every year according to that, to the judgment of that year. Means the deserving of that year is going to decide what that year is going to be. Eventually, it's surely going to get to the goal of the end of the 6,000. What's supposed to be with the world? Surely it's going to come to that, and that's Hashem's master plan. But that doesn't contradict that each year is going to be its piece. What's going to be in this year? Hashem surely knows the future. That's also not included in this discussion. Hashem surely knows the future, but making the future. So Hashem says that it's dependent on us, and it's not contradicting that the master plan surely is going to bring it's surely going to be good at the end. That's surely at the ultimate end. But each year is still a product of the avodah that's done in that year. Well, our time is pretty much up. We'll continue with shofar. So I just wanted to mention one point. We didn't talk about shofar, so just one point. What is shofar? Who is the shofar intended? Who's it designated? Who's supposed to hear it? What would you say? So that's how we think that the Jews are supposed to hear it. Why? Because the Rambam says that even though the shofar is a chok, it's like an unknown, but it has a remez. And he says it as a remez. Rambam himself was the one who's the remez that we should wake up. Uri Yeshena Mishenaschem, wake up. But it's very interesting that in the davening we say Shomeya in the Musaf. Baruch Atah Hashem Shomeya Kol Tziras Amo Yisrael Barachamim. That's how the bracha and shofar ends off. That Hashem hears the sound of the shofar. That means that hears the sound of the shofar. Shomeya Kol Tziras Amo Yisrael Barachamim. Hashem hears the sound of our trua, of our blowing the shofar with mercy. That means that it's a whole different outlook what the shofar is. We're blowing the shofar that Hashem should hear.
We said that the avoda accomplishes something. So in that sense, he has to hear it.
So the avoda, you could say, no, you might say that avoda is that we're talking to ourselves. We're listening to the shofar and getting aroused, and that's going to cause something. But independent of that point, that the shofar is going to cause something. But who's supposed to listen to the shofar? Is it that we're supposed to listen to the shofar? Now, the bracha we say is the shmua kol shofar. The bracha does say to hear the shofar.
The mitzvah is for
us to hear. So that's the question. Is it the mitzvah we should hear it, or that Hashem should hear it? And we're blowing the shofar. So it is interesting that the Rambam is the one who says it. The Rambam is the one who says that it's a remes. He himself says it's only a remes. It's a hint. I don't know the reason for the shofar, but there's a remes that a shofar arouses people to tshuvah. There's also the bracha we say is the shmua kol shofar, to hear the shofar. That's what the bracha is. But it isn't so simple. The Gemara doesn't say that that's the bracha. There's a machlokes rishonim what the bracha is supposed to be. Is it to blow the shofar, or is it to hear the shofar? And the bracha that Chazal say in the shmua shomei kol tziras amo Yisrael barachamim, that's Chazal, and they made up that bracha, and it says that it seems that it's a Hashem is hearing the shofar. We're blowing the shofar. That's a kind of a outcry to Hashem. The same.
A deaf person can blow the shofar.
So you're right. Halachically, you have to hear the shofar also, but it could be that hearing the shofar is a way where you have to when you speak. We have a whole sugya that it's not called speaking unless you could hear it, even though you're speaking to somebody else. But you have to hear it. It's not called speaking unless you hear yourself. It could be it's not called crying out to Hashem with the shofar only if you hear what you hear it. But the point is that I'm directing the shofar as an outcry to Hashem. It seems that that's the Pashup Shalom shofar. Even though we don't say the bracha, we say we have to hear the shmua kol shofar, but really shomei kol tziras amo Yisrael barachamim. We talk about more about the shofar. We'll get to it Be'ez Hashem next week, I guess. But so far, Malchus and Zichronos.
Is it possible to learn Yud Gil Midas Rachman